Good afternoon, everyone. If I could have all of the members of the Court of Revision put on your cameras, please. So Mayor Allen, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, and Councillor Chapman.
Our chaperone, it's actually preventing us. It says that we cannot start video because the host has stopped it.
Okay, just one moment. We will take a look. One moment. My apologies for the delay. We're going to have to make all of the attendees co-hosts, and then you'll be able to turn your cameras on. So it'll just be one moment as we get everybody changed over to a co-host. Okay, so Mayor Allen, you should be able to turn your camera on now, and Councillor Chapman as well.
What does it say? I don't see anything about co-host.
No, you can just go ahead and turn your camera on.
Not according to this. Not the usual choices. Choose virtual background, choose pin, hide non-video participants, hide self-view, rename.
You don't have the option beside the mute
Nope.
for start video?
Nope.
Okay, one moment.
Maybe I should close and come back in.
Mayor Allen, it's at the bottom.
Aha. Thank you. Bingo. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. My apologies for all the delays. So I will start the meeting, and in the absence of a chair, I will call the meeting to order, hold the election for the chair, and then turn it over to the chair. So may I have a mover and seconder to call the meeting to order, please? Deputy Mayor Coughlin and Councillor Chapman, that the meeting of the Court of Revision for the Swaley Drain of November 1st, 2021 come to order at 6:37 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Now for the election of the chair, are there any nominations for the chair for the Court of Revision? Mayor Allen?
Yes, I'd like to move Deputy Mayor Coughlin as the chair, please.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Coughlin, do you accept?
Yes, I do. 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 Yes, I do.
No, seeing none. So the motion would read that Deputy Mayor Coughlin be elected as chair for the Court of Revision. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Chapman and Mayor Allen. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So I will pass the chair over to Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Clerk Ainsworth. Due to COVID-19, Council is taking necessary steps to limit in-person meetings. As such, members of the Court of Revision will be participating in the meeting electronically. The meeting will be live streamed. Residents are provided with the following options to watch and listen to the Court of Revision. Watch the meeting live on the Township website at www.springwater.ca. Listen to the meeting live from a telephone or cellular device by calling 1-647-558-0588 and using the following 870-2423-1269#. This option will be only available during the meeting. Those who are unable to watch our live stream are encouraged to review the meeting at their convenience by watching the video at the Township's YouTube channel. So in order for the appeals, 2 appeals have been submitted to the Court of Revision for the Swaley Drain. 2.1, appeal number 1 from appellant Mr. Bill Haight, property address 2117 George Johnson Road, Minising. Mr. Haight's appeal was submitted on the grounds that his land has been assessed too high. 2.2, appeal number 2 from the appellants Mr. Paul Niels and Ms. Susan McKenna, property 1930 George Johnson Road, Minising. Mr. Niels and Ms. McKenna's appeal was submitted on the grounds that the land shouldn't have been assessed at all because the Swaley provides no benefit to the property. I will actually call on the clerk now. Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to make an oral appeal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are additional persons in attendance, so I will go through them one by one to request if there are additional appeals. There is a phone number, a call-in resident with the last digits of the phone number 4306. I will allow you to speak. So if you can dial *6 on your phone, and that will give you an opportunity to speak. And if you could please let us know if you will be submitting an oral appeal this evening. And again, to unmute yourself, it is *6. Okay, I will move on to the next person and come back to you if you are able to provide us with an answer. Janice Priest, you are unmuted. Are you looking to submit an oral appeal this evening?
No, I'm not.
Okay, thank you. And again, resident with the phone number 4306. If you could unmute yourself using *6 and let the Court of Revision know if you will be submitting an oral appeal. Okay, thank you. We also have in as an attendee, Mr. Bill Haight. So I will be moving you to a panelist, but please keep yourself muted and your camera off until you are called upon to speak. And then we have a caller in from line 7893, which I believe is also Mr. Haight. Could you confirm that, please, Mr. Haight? Mr. Haight, are you able to unmute yourself, please? Okay, it looks like you've unmuted yourself, but we're still unable to hear you. If it is you calling in with that number 7893, you can also dial *6 on your phone to unmute yourself. Okay, Madam Chair, we will get back to the appellant once their application comes forward, so you may continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Ainsworth. At this time, I would like to call on Ken Smart with Ken Smart and Associates Limited to give this evidence regarding each appeal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the court. I will deal with the first appeal as you received it, and that was from Bill Haight. And Mr. Haight's comments were that the county, since the county of Simcoe raised the road and there's no ditch in the west side, there's no outlet other than the Downey drain. My comments are that the Haight property, which lies to the north of the Gilroy property, would normally drain south across the Gilroy property and enter the Swaley drain, and thus the works that we have proposed. However, since the appeal was launched, we determined that we should make an on-site inspection just to confirm that conditions were as what we believe. However, indeed, we found that when we made the inspection, that there is now a combination, or it starts off as a swale, then it enlarges to a ditch along the property line between the Bill Haight property and the Will Gilroy property. And this swale slash ditch actually runs west across the east half of the Gilroy property and then turns to the southwest and is carried into a bush area on the Gilroy property. Once the waters enter that bush area, we cannot confirm that they would enter our work since the wetlands are flooded. And also, since the proposed work will have a berm swale on the north side, we cannot confirm that that swale ditch would enter the work that we are proposing. We were not aware of that swale ditch until we made the examination. It does not show on any topographic maps or any other data. And it was not in evidence at the time of the prior engineering reports, which did assess the Haight property and other properties to the north of the Haight property. However, since we have determined that this swale ditch does exist, that it intercepts all the water to the north of the Gilroy property, and since we cannot confirm that it would enter our work, I am recommending that the Haight appeal be allowed and the Haight assessment be deleted. I will also speak to other assessments in due course.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. At this time, I would call on Mr. Bill Haight to add any additional information.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Yes, that's correct what Mr. Smart had said. I brought this to attention over 2 years ago, and that ditch was dug between my father and Dave Rayner, the previous owner, ahead of Mr. Bill Gilroy Sr. And it drains back into Ross Downey's property, which drains back into his property and into the bush. So there's no, the county have raised the road, and there's no outlet there's no ditch on the west side of George Johnson. There's no water coming from there. It's all heading to the west, to the back of the property, into those ditches. So yes, I agree with Mr. Smart, and it should not be assessed in the drainage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haight. And back to Mr. Smart for any additional information before we move on to appeal number 2.
No, I think after I address appeal number 2, I will also add my recommendation that properties further north on the west side of George Johnson Road also be removed from the assessment schedule because of this swale ditch. And further, I recommend that a component or a portion of the Gilroy property also be removed, since a portion of that property discharges into this particular swale ditch. At the conclusion, I will list the properties that I feel should be removed, and in Gilroy's case, reduced, and I will list the amounts that I recommend. But I will deal with the second appeal when you wish me to.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. You can carry on with the second appeal, please.
All right. The second appeal is from Susan McKenna and Paul Neals. The appeal is quite lengthy, but the thrust of it is that this party should not be assessed benefit as part of the assessments on the Swilly Drain. Indeed, the property is not assessed benefit, but the property is assessed outlet liability like all other properties in the Swilly Drain. Only a limited number of properties, being the wetlands properties plus the municipalities of Springwater and the county of Simcoe, are assessed benefit. Everyone else is assessed outlet liability. And outlet liability is an assessment that is made if your waters enter the drain. You may not receive a benefit directly, but your waters enter the drain and you would be assessed outlet. When I made that assessment, it's as I said for Mr. Haight's property. I believe that the Neils McKenna property would drain southerly across the Haight property into the Gilroy property and then into our Swilly Drain as proposed. However, as I indicated for Mr. Haight, the existence of a swale / ditch along the property line between Gilroy and Haight would in effect remove the McKenna and Neils water from the work that we are recommending. And I have to recommend to the court that the McKenna and Neils appeal be allowed, not on the basis that they launched their appeal, but on the basis that the land does not have its water enter the drain. We cannot confirm that it would enter the drain. Perhaps if the wetlands were not flooded, which would be the case for the Haight property, that may, but since the wetlands are flooded, we cannot confirm the entrance into the drain. So we have to recommend that the McKenna and Neils property be removed from the assessment schedule on the Swilly Drain.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. At this time, I would call on Mr. Neils or Ms. McKenna to add to the appeal, the information provided.
Hello, this is Paul Neils. Thank you very much for letting me speak. Based on the testimony by Mr. Smart, I have no issues. That's great. I'm glad it worked out that way. So I assume that we will not be charged anything on with regards to the maintenance of the Swilly Drain. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. If the Court of Revision accepts my recommendations, I in effect prepare a new assessment schedule and also a maintenance schedule, and you will be removed both from the assessment plus the maintenance schedule, as will Mr. Haight and as will your other neighbors that I will speak to.
Thank you very much. I wonder if I could ask a favor of Mr. Smart, because in my research on the Drainage Act, I've found it kind of confusing and there wasn't a lot of information on how these assessments are done. So would it be appropriate or okay with Mr. Smart if I was to call him through the workday and I just have some questions for him to clarify how this analysis is done, aside from the works that we're doing here?
Mr. Smart?
Yes.
Would it be possible? Sorry, thank you. It would be possible if Mr. Neils could email the clerk, and the clerk, Ms. Ainsworth, could connect Mr. Smart with Mr. Neils.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All I was going to suggest is that there is some literature that does further explain assessments, and I may, as a precursor to any phone call, make that data available and perhaps Clerk Ainsworth could submit that to you, and then following that, a phone call could be arranged.
That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Niels. And Mr. Smart, is there anything additional for appeal number 2?
Nothing further with that appeal, but I have to also recommend to the Court of Revision that since this ditch swale exists, as I've described, that the following 3 properties should also be removed from the assessment schedule. And those properties, I'll read the roll number, at least the last few digits of the roll number and the name. The first one would be roll number 005-19100, and it's shown as being owned by Hayner, Seif, and Seif. And the amount is $497. I recommend that that assessment also be removed. Secondly, on assessment 2, I'll just bear with me here. It's to property with the roll number 005-18910. The name is R. Cameron. And the assessment is $190. And the last property that should not be removed, but would be the Gilroy and Donor property, and its roll number 007 or 005-19200. And its present assessment is $8,882. And that assessment should be reduced to $7,106, 7106. The total reduction in assessments would therefore be $5,127 if we include the $1,649 assessed to the Haight property and the $1,015 assessed to the McKenna property. And I would furthermore recommend, due to the situation of time restrictions and costs, that this assessment be transferred to the Township of Springwater, to the roads of the Township of Springwater.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. Before we move into deliberations, I would call on the clerk to ask if there was any late written appeals.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There have been no late appeals submitted.
Thank you, Clerk Ainsworth. Then may I have a mover and seconder, please, to resolve the Court of Revision into private deliberations? Moved by Councillor Ma Chapman and seconded by Mayor Allen. And at this time, that the Court of Revision for the Swaley Drain does hereby resolve into private deliberations at 6:57 p.m. to deliberate on appeal number 1 and appeal number 2. All those in favor? And that is carried. And Madam Clerk, if you could provide guidance to the members in viewership.
Yes, so members of the Court of Revision, as well as staff of the Township and Mr. Smart, I did email you a separate link for a separate Zoom meeting. So if you could, that was earlier this afternoon, if you could please leave this meeting and enter that meeting. Residents and members of the public, appellants, you may stay on this Zoom meeting. The Court of Revision members will deliberate in the private session in the separate meeting and come back to this meeting to provide the final decision once the deliberations have completed. Deputy Clerk Marshall will be staying on this Zoom meeting. So if you do have questions of the process, you may ask it of her. But at this time, if members of staff, the Court of Revision and Mr. Smart, if you can move to the second meeting, please.
Hello, Mr. Niels. I see that you may have raised your hand. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Is it reasonable for me to assume that there's no reason for me to sit on this? That the council is going to accept the recommendations of Mr. Smart?
Um, I can't say for certain what the Court of Revision will decide. However, if you did want to leave the meeting, we are required to provide you with the final decision in writing. So you would be advised either way of the decision if you choose to leave now.
And if something extraordinary happened and they didn't accept Mr. Smart's recommendation, I assume I would have a chance to discuss it with the committee at some point or send in a.
Yes, so you would actually, there is actually an appeal mechanism under the Drainage Act that you would be able to utilize at that point if you
Okay.
wish. Yeah,
That's great. Okay, thank you very much. Then I'm going
you're
to
welcome. Okay,
take care.
Sure.
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
We'll just take a moment here and wait for the rest to join. Clerk Ainsworth, I'm still not seeing Mayor Allen in the participants. Let's give him another moment here.
No, I think I see where the problem is. I'm just going to give him a call. Just one moment. Mayor Allen will just be joining us in a moment.
All right, thank you. May I have a mover and seconder for the quarter revision to rise from private deliberations at 7:25? Mayor Allen and Councillor Maude Chapman, that the Court of Revision for the Swaley Drain does now rise from private deliberations at 8:25 p.m. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, so the rendering of a decision. Clerk Ainsworth, could you please read the decision regarding the appeals?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a oral submission of the decision of the Court of Revision. A written decision will be mailed out to all of the appellants once this meeting has concluded, and anyone may appeal this decision to the Agriculture, Food, and Rural Affairs Tribunal by filing a notice of appeal with the clerk. So that is myself, within 21 days of the date of this decision. So the date of this decision will not be today. It will be once the written decision has been drafted. And the decision reads that the assessment costs for the following properties be removed from the assessment schedule. Roll number 005-19100 of D. Haydner, Seif, and S. Seif in the amount of $497. Roll number 005-18910, R. Cameron in the amount of $190. Roll number 005-19101, W. Haight in the amount of $1,649. roll number 005-19000, S. McKenna and P. Neals in the amount of $1,015. And that the following property being roll number 005-19200, W. Gilroy and B. Donor, that the assessment be reduced from $8,882 to $7,106, and that the listed reduction be assessed to the township roads, and that the engineer be directed to prepare a revised assessment schedule.
Thank you, Clerk Ainsworth. At this time, I will turn to Mr. Smart for any additional information.
No, I think that is fine. I think your resolution or your preparation for the court is fine. So I have no further comments.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. And also to those in attendance this evening, we will now be adjourning. So may I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn the meeting? Councillor Ma and Mayor Allen, that the Court of Revision meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 7:28 p.m. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Have a great night.